You know who is a proponent of the money trap? Former BET television Mr. Bob Johnson. Bob Johnson is a proponent of the money trap. Bob Johnson came up with a ridiculous reparations formula for American Africans where he said we should each receive $350,000 as a reparations payout. 50 million Africans, approximately, shall receive $350,000 apiece. That is ridiculous. What is $350,000 going to get you in a major city? Maybe a house. Maybe a house. Maybe a small house in a car. Are you telling me that the greatest unnatural disaster in human history, the worst forced transmigration of a people, the only Holocaust in human history, where the perpetrators and owners of African flesh owned us perpetually, dehumanized us eternally, benefit from it forever, and I'm going to get $350,000 for 4 centuries of free labor? Somebody must have bumped their head. Now, some of you are saying, wait a minute, Dr. Umar, 4 centuries, 1619 to 2019, but we got out of slavery 150. Don't you mean 2.5 centuries? No, I mean 4. And the reason I mean 4 is, number one, globally, the Ma'afa was at least 400 years. That's number one. I approach this as a Pan-Africanist. But number two, I don't believe that we only fight for restitution from 1619 to 1865. We are equally owed from 1865 to 2022. Look what we're going through right now. Is this not part of the African Holocaust? The police genocide, is it not part of the African Holocaust? The mass homelessness, the miseducation, the mass incarceration, is that not part of the African Holocaust? Of course, it's part of the African Holocaust. So we don't just argue for 243 years, we also argue for 157. Until we are free, we are still in the Holocaust. 13th Amendment changed nothing for African people. The power relationship that existed between Caucasians and Africans in this country, the power relationship that existed between Caucasians and Africans in this country has not changed a single iota in 157 years. If you beg to differ, I would love to hear your assessment and your analysis. Has the economic differential changed? Has the political differential changed? Has the militaristic has the educate? No. The gap between us and them is as wide, it could probably be argued is wider. Do not fall for the money trap. I don't want money. I want the means by which I can make my own. If you are asking for money, that clearly says you are not demanding the things that will naturally give you the ability to raise your own funds. If money is on the list, it is at the bottom. If you accept a financial payout for our ancestors' misery, all they have to do through inflation is reduce the value of the American dollar. And that $350,000 that we will get apiece can be reduced to being worth less than $100,000 apiece. Do not play the money game with a US dollar promissory note that is not backed by any mineral standard on the face of this earth. Bob Johnson, you are a billionaire. I love you, Elder, but that was an absolute asinine recommendation. $350,000 per African. Are you out of your mind? Moving on. Another issue I have with the reparations fight is I don't hear enough conversation being lent to the impact that the psychological trauma of slavery and the post-slavery psychological trauma that we're still dealing with now. I don't hear much being discussed in that regard. People often get more for psychological damage than they actually do in restitution. People often get more in psychological damage than they do in restitution. People often get more in psychological damage than they do in restitution, brothers and sisters. Why are we not discussing the psychological cost of the ma'afa? Look at all the dysfunctional behavior we have. Look at all the snow bunnying we doing. Look at all the moving out of the community. Look at all the weave and wig wearing of black women. Look at all the light skin supremacy and self-hate and failure to support black businesses and the $2 trillion we waste every year. Why are we not discussing the psychological cost of the ma'afa? Oh yes. Let's get down to what we are owed as a result of coming through and still being inflicted by and through the greatest human tragedy and unnatural disaster in history.